Hey guys, Useless here, and the original creators of Avatar The Last Airbender have left the live action adaptation. Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko have chosen to depart the project due to the dreaded creative differences, and as expected, people are molding. Many fans of the original series have just completely given up on this live action adaptation. They believe that there is no point in doing this if the original creators aren't involved. Now, I am a huge fan of the original series. I loved it as a kid, but I recently rewatched it on Netflix and I was just absolutely blown away by how well it holds up. First of all, can I just say how satisfying it is to watch a show that has a very clear direction that it wants to go in? The show sets up what it wants to do, it does it, and then it just ends. It doesn't go on for a million seasons because it's popular. And it does what it aims to do really well with solid writing, fascinating world building, beautiful animation, and wonderful characters. It really is more than just your standard Saturday morning cartoon. It's just a genuinely great show. And after the infamous M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong movie, fans have been extra protective of their beloved series. Any attempt at a live action adaptation is going to be met with heavy skepticism. Netflix was able to reassure a lot of fans, however, because they got the original creators to be the showrunners on their live action adaptation. But alas, this is no longer the case. And this sucks. I'm already skeptical of a live action show. Honestly, not even really because of the movie, just because the scope of the original series is massive. I honestly wonder if it's even possible to do it justice on TV. Like, I know we've had shows like Game of Thrones and they've done incredible things on TV, but, for a lot of that show, it's just kind of people fighting with swords. In an Avatar show, there are going to be crazy bending happening in presumably every episode, and I honestly just wonder if it's something that can be achieved. The original creators there definitely gave me more hope, but now that they're not there, I don't know, I'm just personally filled with skepticism. But, to be fair, we don't really know what happened. For all we know, DiMartino and Konietzko were just pitching stuff that wouldn't have worked. It should be noted that they've never done anything live action. Netflix, on the other hand, actually has a really good track record of making live action series. But again, we don't know. We weren't there for those meetings. What we do have, however, are Instagram posts by the original creators. DiMartino's post is honestly very ambiguous and is clearly trying really hard not to badmouth Netflix. He basically just kind of says, things happen and things change and, it doesn't all, you don't always, things don't always go the way that you hope they will. And there's honestly nothing very spicy in here. Konietzko's post, however, is a bit more telling, I think. He says pretty clearly that Netflix never followed through with executing their vision. He goes so far as to say that Netflix created a negative and unsupportive environment. So, yeah, he definitely held back a lot less than DiMartino. And yeah, seeing these comments are really disappointing. It makes it seem like Netflix only brought on these guys to get in the good graces of the fans and not because they wanted them to guide the series and really get it right. Now, Netflix did respond to all this, but all they really said was, "We still respect DiMartino and Konietzko." Do you though? But we are confident in what we are doing. So basically, they're trying not to antagonize the fan base any further, but are being very clear in that they're going to follow through with whatever their vision is that is, opposed to what DiMartino and Konietzko wanted. Now, I always got the impression that Netflix basically just let their creators do whatever they wanted, and I'm sure that that's still the case for the most part, but I think that Netflix really wants to position this show to be their next Stranger Things. I think that they want this to be the next like big mainstream Netflix show. So, I guess it's not entirely surprising that Netflix isn't just giving DiMartino and Konietzko free reign to do whatever they want. And not to mention that this thing is going to be their most expensive show. Like I said, if they're going to do this right, they're going to need a substantial budget. Now, there is a report on the specific things that caused the split, but it's from this website called Fandom Wire, which I've never heard of. I honestly, I don't know if they're trustworthy. I'm not saying they aren't, or I'm not saying that they haven't, broken scoops before. I've just never heard of them. So I still want to talk about what they reported just because I think it's all just interesting. But just take all of it with a grain of salt just because I don't know if this site is trustworthy. Firstly, DiMartino and Konietzko reportedly wanted a much bigger budget for the show than Netflix was willing to give them. And honestly, I can pretty easily see this being the case. You have to remember, like I said before, DiMartino and Konietzko come from animation. And to the animation, there really aren't that many limitations. You can have crazy bending scenes in pretty much every episode because it's all drawn. CGI is much more expensive to produce, so you're just not going to have the same free reign that you did in animation. But the report does say that basically, but I guess to be fair, they were in agreement on what they wanted to do, right? DiMartino and Konietzko, but it was just that Netflix insisted that the budget that they were giving them was enough to do that, but DiMartino and Konietzko were saying, no, we need more. And I don't know, like I said before, Netflix just simply has more experience doing live action. So if Netflix was saying that they could do it on the budget that they were giving them, then I'm inclined to believe them. But, there weren't specific numbers being reported in the article, so who knows how much money exactly DiMartino and Konietzko wanted and how much money they actually had. We don't know the specifics of the situation, but yeah, at the end of the day, they just don't have the experience in making live action content, and Netflix does. So at least in terms of the budget, I'm inclined to be on Netflix's side, I guess. Assuming that this is true. And now, it was also reported that Netflix wanted the option to cast white actors. Now, it's not that Netflix wanted necessarily to cast white actors, but they wanted the option to audition white actors. DiMartino and Konietzko, however, were reportedly very adamant about not casting any white actors, just completely having that be off the table. And if this was an issue, then yeah, I would definitely be on DiMartino and Konietzko's side here. I know some people will say that race shouldn't matter, you should just cast the best actor for the role. And my response to that, and I've said this before, but there isn't a shortage of Asian and indigenous actors that you can cast for this show. There will be plenty of options for Netflix and, DiMartino and Konietzko to choose from. And by the way, all things being equal, Asian and indigenous actors do fit these roles better than white people would. Aesthetics do matter. If they cast some white girl as Katara, I'm gonna be weirded out and probably taken out of the show in some respects. So there honestly just aren't any good reasons for wanting to cast white actors in these roles. Now, the biggest, reported disagreement that caused the split was the overall tone of the show. Apparently, Netflix wants to age up the cast, make it more violent and have more romance and sex in in this live action adaptation. And apparently, DiMartino and Konietzko still wanted this to be a kids show first and foremost. And I'm personally kind of torn here. Now, I definitely don't like the idea of aging up the cast and like turning Avatar into like some tween romance thing. Like, I don't want a Aang, Katara, and Zuko love triangle. Like, no, that sounds horrible. However, I wouldn't mind seeing the show be a bit more violent. One of the few complaints that I actually do have about the original series is that I felt like sometimes it was kind of held back by being a kids show. I specifically remember being, kind of taken out of like the battle at like the Northern Air Temple where like they were using like slime bombs instead of regular bombs. Like it just, like this was this really crazy and impressive like war episode, and I don't know, it just didn't have like the impact that I feel like it could have if they were just using regular bombs. It feels like, the writers were like, we this is a kids show, so we can't actually use bombs, so they're using slime bombs. Don't worry about it. Nobody's dying. And listen, I'm not saying that I want them to turn Avatar into Game of Thrones, right? I'm just saying that I wouldn't mind it being a bit more violent and, just not like hesitating to actually like have like war scenes be a bit more brutal. Like if people are fighting with swords, for example, like actually have them cut people down instead of like weird things where you're just like knocking people out or whatever. In the original animated series, while I did have those problems with it was never that big of a deal because it is a cartoon and like it's not that distracting in a cartoon. But if they carried that into live action, then I do feel like it would take me out of it a lot more. If you're gonna do a live action series, then I do think that you should stop trying to aim it directly at kids and still have it be kid friendly, but just don't hesitate to do things that are more appropriate in a live action medium. So yeah, this disagreement over the tone of the show appears to be like the last straw on the camel's back. But remember, this is all coming from Fandom Wire. And again, I'm not saying that they aren't trustworthy. I honestly just don't know. We just need to remember that this information isn't coming directly from DiMartino, Konietzko, or Netflix. So, yeah. Obviously, it sucks that DiMartino and Konietzko aren't going to be able to make this live-action adaptation the way that they wanted. But I do think that they're leaving with their integrity, and I have a lot of respect for that. I mean, they left a really high-profile show and presumably a pretty big paycheck. Like, I honestly don't think they're going to be making any residuals off this show because I'm pretty sure that the Avatar property is entirely owned by Nickelodeon. I really do admire how much they truly love and care for this property. And yeah, I honestly just admire that, they knew that they weren't going to be happy with the direction that the show was going, and they thought that it would be best for their mental health to just leave. And yeah, like I said before, that's just really admirable. However, on the other side, I'm not just going to write off the Netflix adaptation. I honestly do hope it, whatever it ends up being, I hope it's good in its own right, even if it is completely different from the original cartoon. I think people need to remember something. The original show is already done. Even if this live action adaptation ends up being, God forbid, worse than The Last Airbender, the original show will still be there. There is no way that this live action series can ruin your childhood. Your childhood already happened. It can't be changed. Unless one day we invent time travel, in which case it can be changed, but it won't really have anything to do with the show. So I know that people are really upset about this, and trust me, I get it, but you just need to remember that that original show, it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to be amazing. So, yeah, I know I'm like super late on this, but I was busy with some other videos, and, I wanted to get this video out last week, but the DC fandom, I entered the dome, and it ended up taking a bunch of my time, so I wasn't able to get this video done. But hey, better late than never, even though I'm not capitalizing off of this being the hot news of the week. So this is most likely not going to get any views. But let me know what you think. I know that there are a ton of passionate Avatar fans out there with really strong opinions, so throw them at me. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and like and all the stuff that YouTubers say at the ends of their videos, and bye.